the economy, the country's gross domestic product shrunk by 7%.
The pandemic has caused a big economic hit worldwide.
New study shows millennials are being hit extra hard when it comes to credit.
40% of restaurants nationwide expect to close in the next 6 months.
Thou shalt not fall into debt.
The amount of money that will come to you will always be concomitant to the problems that you're solving.
Possessor in the legal terms is the highest level of expression of ownership. So Abraham suddenly becomes possessor of heaven and earth.
Hey, this is Dr. Titch. Welcome to a power talk that we're going to do for the next few days. I'm so excited because this, I know, will really help you and bless you and empower you for success. And getting feedback from all our viewers and those that are following us. Thank you for the questions, the communications. We are going to be talking about the power of habit, the power of habit. Really, this, I think, is an integral conversation for anybody that wants to break into their new level and step into greatness. In my hands is one of the books that I wrote a few years ago. It is called Living Beyond Extraordinary. I want to quote from it as a basis for what we're going to be talking about over the next few days. And please keep in touch, stay connected. Don't miss a single session. Schedule it on your phone and make sure you join me. And if you're joining me right now, let me know where you're watching from. Let us know so that we can just give you feedback, give you a greeting and send you a message and, give you all the updates of all the great things that are happening. Thank you for joining. Send a link to somebody and tell them Africa's #1 success coach is online and we are going through a coaching session with Dr. Titch. Let me read quickly. On page 80 of Living Beyond Extraordinary, I'm talking on the subject neuro-linguistic programming in the Bible. Neuro-linguistic programming in the Bible. What is neuro-linguistic programming? Programming your mind so that it is structured for the life that you want to live, which in essence is developing and building the habits that you need in order for you to become what you're supposed to be. On page 80, we talk about, I give you 4 key points. And number 1 is enlarge the place of your tent. This is based on Isaiah 54. He talks about cry aloud, sing, O barren. Don't be quiet, make some noise, get some attention. Enlarge your tent, enlarge your territory. Make your ropes long and dig your tent pegs deep. Why? You're enlarging your capacity for your next level. And under enlarge your place of your tent, we talk about enlarge your vision, enlarge your mindset, enlarge your spiritual capacity, and enlarge your financial capacity. And I want to be able to help you to do all 4 of these that are under enlarge your tent. Your tent is talking about the house or the habitation. But in this case, we're talking about your brain, your thinking capacity. Number 2 is stretch yourself. That means make yourself uncomfortable with where you are and begin to stretch yourself to the left, to the right, before you, behind you. Increase your capacity. Number 3 is lengthen your cords. Make your cords long so that the tent can grow bigger and bigger. And number 4, strengthen your stakes. That's the stakes that you use to make sure your tent doesn't get blown away by the wind or does not topple over. You've got to strengthen your stakes. So in order for you to go to the next level of your life, you need to do these 4 things. And I want to challenge you today as we continue. This is what we want to focus on. We want to focus on enlarging your territory, your thinking, your creativity, your knowledge of your financial status and your vision. We want to enlarge your territory, your capacity to hold more. And this is what greatness is made up of. How do I get into the space of living that life that is beyond extraordinary? How do I make use of the power of habits? These are the keys and the things that we're talking about. So thank you so much for joining me. Dr. Titch, if you've just joined, let us know where you're watching from. Let's go for a great journey. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, to connect with Dr. Titch, follow, do all those awesome things that you know you're supposed to do, and you'll always get updates on what we are talking about. So let's talk about the power of habit, setting yourself up for success. And I hope you'll be able to follow on the notes so that you hear what we are talking about and you keep pace. The first thing I really want to talk about is, it's a little bit technical because I call this the science of building the right habits. The science of building the right habits. The brain is structured in a very amazing way. God designed our brains to function in a way that is easy to use, user-friendly, so to speak. But many people are unaware of the functionality of their brain in their day-to-day life. And I can say this confidently because as a coach, I work with people, I develop people, I help people succeed. And I've learned over the years that many people don't know the science behind how to think, how to build habits, how to break unwanted habits, smoking, drinking, oversleeping, overeating, and overindulgence in sex, or inappropriate indulgence in sexual activity, substance abuse like alcohol, drugs, and etc. All of these are habits that sometimes disturb or hinder our progress. Procrastination, laziness, what I call mental inertia or brain atrophy, failure to function by reason of lack of use. If you learn and train yourself to engage your brain, to train your brain to function according to the pattern that God has given to us, you will set yourself up for success. And that's what we want to talk about. So there's a part of your brain called, and I always have to say this, that don't get hung up maybe with the names, because sometimes the names are complicated. If you're not planning to be a neuroscientist or a brain surgeon or whatever, the names are not as important as the function. What I want you to always remember is the function. What does that part of the brain do? So this is not an in-depth, it is an overview of that. There's a part of your brain called a neural network system in your brain called the basal ganglia. Now, the basal ganglia have a number of functions. On the notes, you're going to see three basic functions. The first one is motor control, which is your movement, initiation, and regulation. The basal ganglia are critical in initiating, regulating voluntary movements. They help determine the amplitude, the direction, the speed of the movements. That's what you're seeing me doing, the movements, the actions. All of that is being controlled by the basal ganglia. Then there's motor programs. They select and activate specific motor programs while inhibiting others, ensuring smooth and coordinated movements. That's your walking, driving, cooking, activities that you do on a day-to-day basis. Have you ever noticed when you're starting to drive, it's like you got to look at the gear before you change down to gear 2, 3, or change up, whatever it is, because it's not yet established as a habit. But after you've been driving for a couple of months, you can now change gears while not even looking at what you're doing. You're changing gears while you're talking to your wife or your whoever is in the car with you. And some of us have the bad habit of talking on the phone and answering and messaging. Get rid of that habit. Then the third part is feedback loops. Through what they call corticobasal ganglia thalamocortical loops, they provide feedback and to the motor cortex, modulating motor commands. So as I'm functioning, my system is telling me how I did what I did and how it worked, and even going to what we're going to look at in the next one, the reward cycles that are associated. Now, I don't want you again to get so caught up and hung up with these names. I want you to understand that my motor function, my acting, my movement, cooking, working, typing on my computer, scrolling on my phone, doing whatever I do, all of that is in the realm of habit. You wake up and you find yourself in the bathroom, you've put toothpaste on the toothbrush and you're brushing your teeth. Sometimes you don't even say to yourself, wake up, go and brush your teeth. You find yourself doing it because it's in the realm of habit. That's what we are talking about. The second area is motor learning, habit formation. Now, this is now getting close to what we're talking about. Skill acquisition. The basal ganglia are involved in the acquisition and automation of the motor skills through practice and repetition. I remember I once tried to go and play golf, and the person who was teaching me told me, keep doing it, keep hitting the ball. And they gave me the uncomfortable way of holding that golf club. And I said to myself, this golf stuff is not for me. But he says the more you do it, the more it goes into muscle memory. Then I remembered, okay, that sounds like all the other stuff I've done. I had to train myself to hold microphone when I'm preaching, train myself to drive, train myself how to stand to do the cooking and baking and all of that. And that's what it's talking about, skill acquisition. Skill acquisition. This is the good news. You can acquire the needed skills to get to where you want to go. So please keep listening to this lesson. It's going to help you. Then the next one is what they call procedural memory. Let me read. It states, they help store procedural memory, which are memories of how to perform different tasks or skills, like riding a bicycle, driving a car, riding a horse, doing all those things that you do. The other day, I went with some of the men in our church, and we went to play we went to a 10-pin bowling alley, and we were doing some bowling. And suddenly I remembered I'd done this so many times with my kids, and when they were younger, I had to be teaching them the lesson how to hold the ball. And when the kids are small, the ball, there's no ball that is small enough for kids. All those balls, even the smallest one, is really quite big and uncomfortable for them. But I had to teach them how to roll, to run and release. Run, swing, release. Run, swing, release. And you've got to release the ball at the right time, and you've got to maintain focus at the pins. Don't look at the ground. Don't look at the foul line. Don't look at where the ball is landing. Look at the pins at the end of the alley. So you run, you swing, you release. Run, swing, release. And when you do it enough times, your mind can now do it, or your system can now do it without you having to think. Now, I want you to pick up the principle there. You're training yourself. So the next time you go to a 10-pin bowling alley, you're going to remember, okay, I remember Dr. Tich said, I've got to look at the vision, the end result, the 10 pins, and then I position myself where I know I can pace myself, the number of steps I need to take in order for me to run, swing, release. So if you do it long enough, it gets into the realm of a habit. That's why the professional bowlers will always get, you see, if you've ever watched them, they get out of 10 games that they're playing, they're probably going to get 8 or 9 strikes. When we are playing, we get maybe 1 or 2 strikes. Why? Because they've been doing it for so long. So it's in this realm of habit. It helps you to procedural memory helps you to create and establish memories to perform certain tasks. So this is important because it's going to apply when we start talking about making money, when we talk about building quality relationships, when we talk about all the other necessary habits that are needed for your success. So let's do the third one. Let's talk about the third one. And we call this cognitive and emotional functions. So in the realm of habit, we have in the basal ganglia, we have neural networks that are created that help us to, in the process of cognitive and emotional function. Cognitive means our thinking, our ability to recognize, to remember, to bring to memory information and say, okay, I recognize this because my mind says we've seen it before, we've done it before. Run, swing, release. Run, swing, aim, release. So you're able to remember that because of the cognitive faculties that are working in you. Now, this cognitive and emotional function feeds into three key areas in your life. Three key areas. The first one is what we call executive functions. These are the executive functions. This is talking about they contribute to the executive functions such as planning, decision making, working memory by interacting with the prefrontal cortex. So it is decision making, working memory, planning, creating strategy because of the relationship between the basal ganglia and the prefrontal cortex. I'm getting the names all mixed up in my head here. That's why I always say, don't worry about the names, focus on the function. So if the basal ganglia is helping me to manage these executive function of thinking, processing, prioritizing, decision making, this is more important than that, this is better than that, this is a greater priority than this is more urgent than that. In the event that you're walking down the road and you're at a hotel on holiday, and as you're walking down one of the entertainment areas, you hear a child screaming in the pool because they are drowning. You know you had to go and check out or do something at the reception. But this process of rescuing the person who's drowning is a greater priority than getting to the reception. So you drop everything. Your mind says, this is priority. That is your basal ganglia functioning to tell you this is a decision making, a prioritizing, a planning, an action oriented thing. Go and rescue the person that's drowning. Now, I'm sure that's clear enough. And then the second one there is the reward and reinforcement. So remember, we're talking basal ganglia, and then we're talking prefrontal cortex. Now, the reward cycle system functions from what is called the nucleus accumbens. Now, you've seen all these interesting names talking about the brain, the nucleus accumbens, the basal ganglia, and the prefrontal cortex. Now, I want to give you the key that's going to help you in forming new habits and beginning to understand how to break old ones. Here is how it works. I've got my tea here. I enjoy my tea because I'm a speaker. I do a lot of speaking. I'm speaking every single day, whether I'm doing a recording, a live broadcast, or I'm doing coaching with my clients. I normally do 3 to 4 clients every single day from Tuesday to Friday. So that is a lot of talking. So I've got my tea, and I love my tea. I enjoy my tea. It is a mixture of tea, lemon, honey, thyme, cayenne pepper, and all kinds of awesome mixtures that we put in the tea to make the tea good for my voice. So that helps me. So here's what happens. When I have the tea, my taste buds say, that tea is awesome. It tastes great. I'm tasting the honey. I'm tasting the thyme. I'm tasting the cayenne pepper. I'm tasting the tea itself. I'm tasting the lemon. And it's all creating this amazing mixture in the tea. And my sensory buds or taste buds are saying, that's awesome. We enjoyed the tea. That sends a signal to the nucleus accumbens, where the part that registers a pleasurable experience, and that sends a signal to the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the place where the executive function, the thinking, the strategy. I've got to create a strategy to get some more tea. So guess what? The prefrontal cortex says the nucleus accumbens says the tea was awesome. Sends a message, prefrontal cortex, which is at the front of the brain. It says, hey, let's have another cup of tea. So every time, this is my special thermal cup that keeps everything hot. This thing can keep everything at boiling temperature for almost 20 hours. Brilliantly designed cup. So whenever I see this cup, it sends a signal to say, hey, remember this cup, it always has your tea in it, and the tea tastes great. So every time I see the cup, it sends a whole system reminding me, let's have some tea, let's have some tea, let's have some tea. So having tea goes into the realm of habit. When I see the cup, it reminds me of the whole process of the tea. And I have the tea to help soothe my throat when I am talking. Now, what's the purpose of this part of the lesson? Now, when you understand, I don't know what it is that you enjoy doing that gives you a sense of fulfillment, enjoyment, satisfaction, whether it's going for a steak. Let's use that for an example. If you love going for steak or pizza or burgers, if your system has tasted a burger, and your nucleus accumbens, the pleasure center in the nucleus accumbens says, hey, this is such a pleasurable experience. We love having a burger. We love having T-bone steak. I enjoy T-bone steak. So it sends a signal to the prefrontal cortex, and the prefrontal cortex says, that was awesome. Let's repeat it. Let's create a strategy. It sends a message to the basal ganglia. So now what's happening is zoop, zoop, zoop. Just like you see in those movies when electrical signals are going through the brain. That's exactly what's happening. The more you repeat those electrical signals going through the brain or chemical signals going through the brain, the stronger those neural pathways become. And when those neural pathways become stronger and stronger, it forms a habit. Why are habits powerful? Because your life is shaped by habits. You are broke or you are rich because of habits. You have a good marriage, a bad marriage because of habits. You are healthy or unhealthy because of habits. You are enjoying your life or not enjoying your life because of habits. Habits are powerful. That is why you must understand how habits are formed, how habits are dissolved or removed from your system, and how you can systematically develop the habits that are necessary to take your life to the next level. So this is what we're going to be exploring for the next few days. Today we've just given you the science of understanding habits. Tomorrow, join me again as we explore the habits that you need to form that are going to help you make money, move into the place of financial freedom, beginning to create your wealth and your success in the area of your finances. This is Dr. Titch. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'd like to encourage you, make the investment into this brilliant book, Living Beyond Extraordinary, the story of a dreamer, and move yourself into the place of living an extraordinary life. Thank you so much, and God bless.
To the economy, the country's gross domestic product shrunk by 7%.
Pandemic has caused a big economic hit worldwide.
New study shows millennials are being hit extra hard when it comes to credit.
40% of restaurants nationwide expect to close in the next 6 months.
Thou shalt not fall into debt.
The amount of money that will come to you will always be concomitant to the problems that you're solving.
Possessor in the legal terms is the highest level of expression of ownership. So Abraham suddenly becomes possessor of heaven and earth.